Hi, good morning, Facebook. So today is day 21 of my 25-day mental health awareness challenge. And of course, you can tell the excitement in my voice. I'm really pleased that we've been able to keep this going. And once again, a shout out to my dear friend, Reverend Victoria Lawrence, who nominated me to go on this challenge. So yesterday we did letter P, as in post-traumatic stress disorder, and today I'm meant to do R. However, I did a very detailed article on race and mental health, which is in the Testify magazine of the July edition of Testify magazine. And so I'll refer you to that because I did quite a lot on that, covered a lot on race and mental health. Today I'm going to go on to letter S, and today I'm talking about something really very important to everyone, something that we can all relate to. It's interesting, but we can all relate to it, and it's sleep. Sleep and mental health. Sleep is very, very important to mental health. And people think about what are the ways in which I can look at my mental well-being or improve my mental well-being. Attending to your sleep is one of those things that you can do. So the question that people usually ask is, how does sleep interact with mental health? The reality is that we know that if your sleep is disturbed for long enough, it can affect your mental well-being. People who suffer from deep sleep deprivation for long enough, it could actually make them prone to depression. We also do know that people who have an existing mental condition, that sleep disturbance could actually cause a trigger for a relapse. For instance, people who have a bipolar affective disorder, which is manic depressive illness or manic depression. Sleep deprivation is one of the reasons why they could suffer a relapse. The other thing we do know is that sleep deprivation could also be, or sleep disturbance could be a sign that mental illness or that there is a mental disorder. So sleep disturbance occurs, for instance, in depression, it occurs in anxiety disorders, it occurs in people who suffer from alcohol dependence or people who use street substances as well. So sleep is a very key indicator of mental well-being, if you want to say so, and that's the reality. In addition to that, we also do know that sleep can actually affect your physical health. People don't also realize that. For instance, we do know that if you sleep deprivation, prolonged sleep deprivation is associated with high blood pressure. It's associated with diabetes, and is also associated, even apart from it's also associated with obesity. So there are certain physical health consequences of sleep deprivation as well. In addition to that, so how does sleep really, what's the role of sleep in our lives? To start with, when we sleep at night, what happens is that our brain goes through periods in which it's very inactive. And it's at this period of time that it's like our metabolism, the rate at which our body works, slows down completely. And this gives the brain the opportunity to actually clear out the toxins that have developed over the day, the toxic, harmful chemicals that have developed over the day from the day activities are cleared out. It's like the brain more or less carries out a restorative work. It restores the cells that are also damaged. So it's a period when it's like it's a downtime for the body to repair itself and to prepare for the next day. So when constantly the brain is not allowed to carry out this activity, it can have a long-term effect. The other long-term effect to think about that people now know is that, in fact, prolonged sleep deprivation is now being linked to long-term mental difficulties in terms of Alzheimer's. So people are now saying that, in fact, it may be that if during your early life or during your adult life, you suffer from prolonged periods of sleep deprivation, you may actually be reaping that dividend with dementia later on in life. So those are things that really call us to caution to look at the way we sleep. So how much is normal sleep? Normal sleep, we know that babies do sleep for about 17 hours a day. As people get older children should sleep for between 9 and 10 hours. That's about how much they need to function well in their young life. And then we do know that most adults should sleep for about 8 hours. The average sleep need for most adults is 8 hours. I say that with a caveat because there are people who there are very few, but there are people who can thrive and who can function on less sleep than that. I know that famously, the famous female British Prime Minister Lady Margaret Thatcher, was known to have slept for maybe 3 or 4 hours at night every night, and she managed to continue to function well and rule the country and all that. But that's few and far in between. Most of us need about 8 hours of sleep every night to function well in the day. And what's the indication that you're not getting enough sleep? The indication is that you feel tired during the day, you feel irritable, you might feel like catching a nap, you might feel that your concentration is fleeting, you might feel that you are not able to get as much done as you would usually want to. You might also find that you have memory difficulties, and you might also have challenges with decision making. I want to, at this point, talk about a piece of research that I read a while back, which is quite interesting about sleep. And that's that these researchers gathered two groups of people. I think they were students. There was a cohort that they allowed to sleep the normal 8 hours at night, and there was another cohort that they kept awake for as much as possible through the course of the night. They tried to keep them awake with different types of distraction just to make sure that they don't get a good night rest. And the next day, they administered an aptitude test to these two groups. And at the end of the aptitude test was about their decision making, their ability to judge, to make judgment, their judgment, ability to decide on things. So they tested a number of their cognitive functions. And what did they find? What they found was not as interesting as what the people who took the test thought they would find. Now, so they asked the cohort who had slept well over the night how well they did in the tests. And some of them were very conservative and very humble about their perceived outcome in the tests. But they then asked the people who had been up all night about how they thought they fared in the test, and they actually overestimated their performance. Now, the outcome of the test showed obviously that the people who didn't have a good night rest performed poorly, and the people who had a good night rest performed a lot better. But what is most significant is not just that, but the fact that the people who had not slept well, not only did they perform poorly, but they also overestimated their performance and their outcomes in the test, which means that not only is poor sleep bad for you in decision making, it's also bad for you in judgment. So bad sleep is bad judgment. When people don't sleep well, it impairs their judgment, and that's why people say that when you're very tired, you shouldn't be making very important decisions in life. Okay, so now what can we do to get a good sleep? There are several things that cause sleep disruption. One of them is to look at the environment. Look at your bedroom. Is it too cold? Is it too hot? Is the bed uncomfortable? Those are little things that you can do to improve your night's rest, your night's sleep. The other thing to look at would be even the structure of your day. We do know that people who tend to exercise during the day, particularly to avoid exercise for the last 3 hours of the night, tend to have a better sleep than those who don't exercise at all. So doing some exercise can actually help. Also, avoiding large meals for the last 2 hours or 3 hours of the night is also very important, because large meals could actually disrupt your sleep at night. It's important to also be careful about your drink. So we do know that things like caffeine drinks are particularly harmful to sleep. It's best not to have more than 3 cups of caffeine drink over the course of 24 hours. And so if you're having tea or coffee, between those drinks, you shouldn't have more than 3 cups. The other thing to bear in mind is that there are certain fizzy drinks and also certain mints now that also have caffeine in them. The other option would be to consider the decaffeinated drinks rather than go for the caffeinated ones. Also, there are other things that you can do, such as not bringing work into the bedroom, or not having television in your bedroom, because the brain makes links. So if you work if your bedroom doubles as your office as well, it might not be a particularly good thing. Watching television in bed is not a particularly good thing as well, because all of these send messages to the brain that it's time to be awake rather than asleep. So it's always best to restrict your use of your bedroom for sleep and relaxation. The other thing to bear in mind is also to have a structured routine with sleep. Go to bed at the same time every night and try and wake up at the same time every night. You might need to use alarms just to make sure that you have a rhythm to your sleep pattern. It's always very important to do that. Also, avoid the use of alcohol and illicit drugs. They are bad news when it comes to sleep. Alcohol could help you to go to sleep, it could send you to sleep, but you're almost certainly going to wake up too early. And illicit substances they've been known to keep people awake as well. Also, slimming pills is another culprit that people are not aware of. A lot of slimming pills contains what are called amphetamines. Amphetamines are stimulants. And people who are on slimming pills might find that they're having difficulty sleeping. And just taking that out of your regime might actually be the solution to your poor sleep. So in terms, that's the much I want to say about sleep tonight. And I do hope there's always help available for people who are experiencing who are having difficulty sleeping. The first thing to do will be to apply all these measures. Just to say that sleeping pills, sometimes people need sleeping pills, but do be aware that a lot of them are addictive, and that what people then find is that it gets to a point in which using the same amount of the sleeping pills does not produce results, and you are needing to use more of them. So it's usually better to try and address the cause of the sleeping problem and to try and use natural remedies. The other things like also relaxation exercises, just going from the muscles of your toes, tensing the muscles of your toes, and then relaxing them and feeling them relax, tensing them and relaxing them, and just walking up your body, your toes to your ankles, to your calf, to your thighs, to your abdominal muscles, to your forearms and your arms, and to your neck muscles and your facial muscles. Try and tense those just in sequence. Start from the toes and walk up to your head, tensing the muscles and relaxing them in a very conscious and mindful way. That can also help you to get a better sleep at night. So, and if all of this is still not working, and you can see that your sleep problems are affecting your performance, then you do need to speak to your general practitioner or your family physician to get some help, because there are also psychological therapies that can help people with sleep difficulties, like cognitive behavioral therapy is one of them. Relaxation techniques can also be one of them, because anxiety might be a reason why people are not sleeping well. So that's letter S for today. Tomorrow I'm treating another S, and this time it's something that people commonly hear about, and it's a condition called schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a mental health condition that I'm going to be dealing with tomorrow. So thank you for listening, and do have a very beautiful and restful day. See you tomorrow.